Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Ketchadori.
Hi guys, welcome back to another very special episode, and with me is my dear friend, Trevor Stockwell, a gentleman that I've known for a long time, and we are going to be talking about leadership, the journey to effective leadership. Now, I've known Trevor, in many different environments. I've known him as a close friend, I've known him as a leader at church, I've also known him as a leader in his area of influence, which is at work, as a business coach. And today we want to be talking about leadership in general, specifically how to stand out as a leader in turbulent times like we find ourselves in. And if you really want to know how to become that, and perhaps you just want to pick one or two nuggets that will help you to strengthen whatever you already have going for you, you're in the right place, because Trevor, as I know him personally, in fact, he's helped me even in my journey into leadership. I know he's going to help you today. Trevor, thank you so much for joining us here today.
That's great. No, thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. Trevor, you have done quite a bit of things, and but there are some people who are not familiar with some of the work you've done. Just to get us started, would you let us in a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd love to. So my kind of leadership journey, I suppose, started about 15, 16 years ago, something round about then.
Right.
I've worked both in the not-for-profit sector and still do, but also for a consultancy. So I was a systems manager for about 15 years, which kind of covered more IT and quality management. So it was more of a management role.
Right.
The not-for-profit side of things, through church and through other charities, was more kind of leading teams, managing processes, making sure the teams do what needs to happen within a certain time. Kind of the usual stuff when it comes to sort of process management.
Yeah.
So 15 or so years is kind of around about the time that all of this started. My awareness with regards to leadership, the importance of it, and how it kind of, I suppose, got birthed within me in a conscious way. That's when it started.
Yeah, I remember you and I sitting in a lounge a few years ago in London, and we were talking about John Maxwell and how his content had influenced you to actually lead. At the time, you were leading, teams at Hillsong Church, making huge impact to a huge number of people. Back then, one of the things I remember you mentioning was the idea of really caring for the people you lead. Would you let us in that aspect, how important it is when it comes to leadership?
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of, the answer spans the corporate side of things. It spans family life as well, really. Our greatest resource is people. Whether we're in businesses making millions, regardless of the turnover, it's the people. You have to be able to give people space to grow and develop. You have to be able to give them responsibility. But they also need to know that they're valued and they're cared, and they're not just a number. They're not just a piece of machinery that comes in, does what you want them to do, and then goes home, and you expect the same performance from them every day of the week.
Yeah.
So it's the human element, and I think, as you say, John Maxwell, I've been a huge fan of him for many years. He was kind of the catalyst, I suppose, that started my leadership journey, really. He manages to communicate simple concepts, but also he teaches in a way that helps you implement those concepts. And it's very people focused, as kind of the whole world is seemingly now moving its awareness towards being people centric. It's just key. It doesn't work without valuing people. People will leave and go to another organization if they don't
Absolutely. It's interesting that you mentioned the point that people will leave and go to a different organization if they don't feel valued. I was talking to one guest like not too long ago, and pointed out that the reason people stay in an organization is, do they feel valued? Are they part of a team? And are they appreciated? Not necessarily about the amount of money they get paid, but those three things decides
Yeah.
how long somebody stays. And great leadership put emphasis on that. Now, I remember back then, perhaps maybe close to 10 years now, you were writing for Build a Body website, that you distributed to people to listen to. What was the motive behind that?
I suppose really the root of it is personal development. So
Right.
we're only really, this is my personal opinion, but we're only really going to be the best leaders we can be if we continually grow and develop ourselves. Yes, there's a leadership aspect that you can grow and develop as well. Certain skills, the way you communicate, your perspective towards people, goal setting, things like that. But also, it's the personal growth side of things. Like, what are the values that are really driving my decisions? What are the values that are driving my outlook? Because the outlook then determines how you interact with people, how you appreciate people, or don't, as the case might be. So personal growth, I think, has got to be the foundation of whatever we decide to build in our lives. I know you've got listeners from all kind of walks of life, all different types of businesses. And in some ways, it can be so easy to get trapped into focusing on the business, driving the marketing, driving the connections, the networking, promoting yourself in different arenas.
Yeah.
And almost neglect is probably too strong a word, but the personal development side of things, there's just not enough time, some days, some weeks to do it. And I think that's over a period of time, if we're not growing ourselves, then sooner or later, the things that we try and build in our lives, there's a gap, there's a void. It just doesn't hang together.
Yeah.
Things start falling apart. So, I think start with personal growth, and with growth it's a journey, isn't it? Like, we want to be more like trees than maybe a pot plant. So trees take years, decades to get to strength, to get to strong foundations, and to continuously, year in, year out, bear fruit, seed, grow other species of whatever they are.
Yeah.
And it's the same with us. We have to be able to grow ourselves in order to keep reproducing things that add value to other people.
Yeah. And one interesting thing about personal development, it is optional. Tony Robbins says this, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. You have to be intentional about it as a leader. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you are prioritizing that as to be the number one thing that all great leaders are focused on, or anyone who wants to become a great leader to focus on their personal development. Now let's go a little bit deeper with this, Trevor. There is a whole industry of personal development. What specific areas do you think leaders ought to focus on within this broader field of personal development? Perhaps, for those who are getting started, what can they focus on that will perhaps increase their chances of, getting ahead far much quicker than if they focus on something else?
I think one of the main fundamentals is the level of self-awareness that we operate at.
Okay.
I think the whole reason why coaching is such a crucial area in people's lives, and while that's why the industry is growing like it is, people are realizing that I need external input every now and again. I need help to unpack the things that are within me. When I mentioned external input, my kind of perspective on it is less in the mentoring side of things.
Right.
Although having a mentor is also very useful. would highly recommend it as well. But the coach kind of sits in a slightly different arena where the coach helps to draw out the answers that are within the individual. So if I'm, say, coaching a client, it would be wrong for me to approach the coaching process with my agenda of what I think the client should do.
Yeah.
But I'm there to help facilitate the discussion so that the client kind of digs into the subconscious side of things to discover, what is it that I really want to do, but also what's stopping me doing the things that I really want to do? Why do I kind of hit a ceiling and then just can't seem to get further, but go around in circles? I think, and yeah, we've all got limiting beliefs, whether or not we choose to kind of focus on them and deal with them at any point in time. As you say, it's down to intentionality, really.
Yes.
But yeah, just getting external help is key, I think.
It is.
Because we all have blind spots, don't we? And
do.
the reason they're blind spots is because we can't see them. Everyone else potentially can, but we can't. So, yeah.
It is incredibly true that becoming self-aware, you become more effective. You know exactly what you're dealing with. One concept I came across not too long ago is that your beliefs changes with your awareness. If you become aware that you can do something, your belief in actually taking action to doing that increases, and your chances of actually changing or getting result from it, or a positive result, of course, increases. So by becoming aware of of yourself, or if your limiting beliefs, or what the things that you need, you are literally moving your life forward far much. In your experience, Trevor, having coached several leaders, business leaders specifically, uh, you know, what stops people from going on this journey of becoming self-aware?
I think there's a few main reasons. One of them, I think, when you're in the early stages, particularly of running a business, starting it up, getting it going, building momentum, it becomes that would be really nice, but I just don't have the time. So there's that aspect. We always think we're actually busier than what we are.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can get overwhelmed in our mind as to all the things we need to do. And when we actually stop and do some of them, we realise they don't take as long.
Yeah.
So I think the time element, it can be a thing. I think it's kind of a bit crazy in a sense to say it, but there can be the limiting belief that I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough to be able to move past a certain point.
Yeah.
I'm really good at this. I'm a number 5 at whatever your expertise is, but I don't have the capacity to be a 7, an 8, a 9.
Right.
And really, we all have. We're all gifted in different ways. I don't think we'll ever reach our full potential. I think there are levels of potential that we discover and release over a period of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is based on how intentional we are. And also, are we open to get support from other people where we need it, be it coaches, mentors, personal growth. Family members can point out blind spots and just areas that you're struggling in, or things that you don't see. You could have a communication style which really isolates yourself from a lot of people, because it's your style. Unless you're aware of it, you might just think that's normal, that's me. And well, yes, it is, but there are certain steps you could take if you were aware of it. So maybe just rephrase some of your questions or your responses, or just use certain types of words and avoid other words that could be a bit more confrontational. Just to use that as an example.
Yeah. Incredible, absolutely incredible. For those listening, we are talking to Trevor Stockwell, an expert when it comes to leadership development, working with business owners for some time, and also have worked in the industry himself for the last 15 years. Trevor, we've covered, as part of personal development, becoming self-aware. If somebody wants to move from there, what would be the second thing they ought to focus on in their development journey in becoming that great leader?
by that is it's giving people a space that they can grow and maybe do the things you want them to do, but in a different way than you would do them. Having that flexibility to, there's balance to it. You have to kind of grow people gradually and be sure that you can give them extra areas of responsibility, and then just check in now and again rather than micromanage all the time. I think the more that we release other people to develop and grow themselves, that frees up more of our time. And it keeps us seeing the bigger picture rather than getting caught up in a lot of the day-to-day activities that need to happen. But you don't necessarily need to be the person to do that. That also feeds into the fact if I'm developing the staff around me, they realize that I value them and appreciate them for who they are, and the fact that they can contribute in a bigger way, that gives buy-in. So they're then more committed to the organization's vision, the goals that we want to achieve. And for me as a leader, just being open for them to have ideas that, just because I haven't thought of it, it doesn't mean it's not right. It's not better than what I would think. It's kind of being secure enough in yourself as a leader that you can admit, I don't have all the answers, and I'm open because you're on my team. You're an asset to me, and I'm open to hear your point of view. What is it that I can't see that I'm missing because I'm just focused the way I am, that you might actually see and be able to shed light on?
Yeah.
I think that's huge, actually. Yeah.
It's incredible. This is one area perhaps a lot of business owners struggle with, especially if you have started the business yourself, because you know how everything works and you develop this attachment like, this is my baby, this is how I look after my business, how I work it out. To take that leap of faith and trust some people to do it for you, or to take one area of your business and let them lead, it takes a huge leap of faith for people to do. I know that because it was like that for me when we were starting out. In your experience, how can we help business leaders who struggle with letting other people take on? How can we help them?
I suppose it partly depends how people receive help. So
Right.
you're going to be more susceptible to receiving help depending on your personality style. So I kind of do DISC assessments, which, without going into that too much here, it helps you to see that everybody's different, but generally predictably different. We all come under four main behavioural aspects. Those that we're strong in, those that we're not so strong in. So I think ideally you need to know how best the person that you're communicating with is going to receive kind of input, instruction, if you want to call it that, or just how they learn, because we all learn slightly differently as well.
We do.
So I think that's the thing. It's being honest with people as well. And I think once people realize that whatever input you're offering, if it is offered, if they ask for advice, or maybe you're suggesting you offer some advice which they haven't asked for, I think it's just coming from a place of authenticity. And once they realize that you value them and you actually care about them, and the reason, your motive is not to criticize them or to put them down and make yourself feel better, but to actually try and help them see a better way of doing things. I think that's kind of the hurdle that needs to happen first. It's kind of, why would I listen to you if you don't care about me? So it's building that bridge, that connection first. And then people are, maybe they don't necessarily seem to respond to what you say straight away, but generally, most of us will actually value what people say, will go away and think about it, and then decide, yes, this is something that I want to follow through on, or no, I'm not sure that's for me at this time.
Yeah, it goes back to connecting with people right where they are, and again with DISC, which I hope we'll get to talk about it toward the end of the conversation here, because you offer that as a service, so people can get access to that. But I just want to talk about one thing that you brought up on there, which is really releasing others to take risk Would you expand on that a little?
Yeah, sure. I think with all of it, like risk is a buzzword at the moment in most industries. I think everyone's become more aware of the importance of assessing risk and putting measures in place to kind of minimize the risks that we take. I think it's with anything, isn't it? We can't eradicate risk completely. We don't want to. Most of what we learn and how things grow and develop is through people taking risks. We were kind of created, I think, to explore, to try and discover new things, to push the boundaries. So I think risk is an important part of life. However, you can manage the outcomes of certain activities better if you stop and think about what's the worst that could happen, or what sort of things could we put in place to minimize a negative impact of whatever it is we're going to endeavor to follow through on. So I think we need to embrace risk, but in a positive way. And I think as long as we've kind of done what we need to set certain boundaries, then I think, with contingencies in place and making sure that we can prevent the worst case scenarios, then I think it's a key thing that people need to embrace. And then, people are going to do stuff differently when you give them something to do.
Correct.
And that's part of their learning journey, and also yours, because, as I said, I don't have the best way of doing everything, but unless I'm open to let other people, I will just expect everyone to do what I want the way I would do it. And obviously they're not going to be able to do that because it's not me doing it. So there's this humility from our perspective as leaders that needs to be a factor in that as well.
Yeah.
And when people get it wrong, if you've managed the risk well enough, and expect that they will get it wrong from time to time, as much as you try and communicate to them how to do it. Part of their learning is in the failure. I learn a lot through failure. I'm not an expert in all areas, and I kind of always want to fail in a positive way, because it means that I'm growing. It means I'm pushing my boundaries. I'm developing and exploring new things. Hopefully I don't fail at everything all of the time, because that's kind of counterproductive. But yeah, we need to give space, so people can grow. You imagine like a baby, a little child learning to walk for the first time.
Yeah.
How many times do we fall over before we master walking? But now we do it without thinking. And because, whoever was raising us gave us that opportunity to sit down, stand up, walk, sit down, stand up, walk, we're now where we are. So, yeah.
Amazing. Incredible. This is really good. Thank you, Trevor. Let's talk about the mistakes perhaps that you have observed potential leaders make that really stops them from reaching their full potential as leaders. Would you perhaps discuss one or two of those that you think people need to be aware of?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I think that the number one kind of mistake that we make, and it's one that I don't think we just master once and then never have to struggle with it again, and that's being ourselves. We are all different. I'm different to you. You'll reach people that I won't reach, and vice versa. And the more I try and be somebody that I'm not, the more frustrated I become. And therefore the people around me are also frustrated because I'm not optimized in my role. I think it comes back to the self-confidence, the self-esteem level that kind of comes through personal growth. There's lots of factors that affect self-esteem, but one of them is, if you know you're on the journey that you want to go, you're growing in the direction that you want, you're getting good input in and you're listening and following through, then you can operate more from a position where you're confident to be who you are. That means you'll communicate better.
Yeah.
That means you'll relate to your team, to your staff, people you've never met before that you're trying to kind of build a bridge towards when it comes to growing your business. All of that really comes down to you being yourself, because then you're your most authentic. It sounds obvious and we know it. Ask anybody and they know, yeah, that's it. But the walking out day to day of actually, this the more in touch we get with who we really are. We're not going to reach everybody, but that's fine. We're not supposed to reach everybody. That's what everybody else is for. We all have a part to play in a crowd that we kind of specialize towards, I think. So, yeah, me trying to be somebody else is just counterproductive for me and everybody I'm trying to reach.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is so true. You know what? I cannot claim that I'm always myself, but I'm certainly better at this than I used to be when I got started. And the results are tremendous because people connect with who you really are than the facade. I've discovered even in my sales when I want to put my points across and I convey to my feelings, my beliefs at that point that I have, and why I think what I have is of value, can help somebody. People understand that. But the moment I take on somebody's image and want to come across in a certain way, which is very different from me, people have got this non-BS input system inbuilt in them that they will know straight away that, oh, this is not right. They may not be able to put finger on it, but they will sense it.
Yeah.
And they will smell it perhaps. And oftentimes they may do business with you in one transaction, and then after that they move away from you because that's the nature of it. And if you look at genuine brands that have been around for a long time, be it good or bad, whichever side you are on, but if you look at it, the people who are leading it are very authentic. They are very real. They're vulnerable. Sometimes they're angry. Sometimes they are very passionate. Maybe angry is too strong, but very passionate about what they believe, about what they're trying to do, where they're going, and who they're serving. The more conscious we as business owners become like that, the effective we become, and we get compensated for it, which is what we all need. Is there any other mistake you have noticed in your 15 years of working with great leaders?
Yeah, I would say the other kind of key lesson, one which I kind of learn and try and stay conscious of regularly, is how well I lead myself.
Right.
It's easy to kind of talk to the team and say, yeah, this is where we're going, this is what we need to do, and just roll out all the plans and the purposes. But am I actually leading myself well? So am I leading my outside of work life in a way that manages my energy, that gives me, the nutrition, the sleep, the rest that I need, leisure time, things like that? Am I making right decisions with how I use my time? Do I get up at the right time and get focused on the right things? Do I focus on the priorities? Am I kind of becoming lazy in certain areas because I don't think they're important? Or am I getting the balance wrong where I'm always at work, I'm always building the company, always talking to the team and never talking to family or friends? Am I neglecting a key area of life which you really need in balance for life to go well? I think that's it. It's, if we lead ourselves well, we contribute to our own success.
Yeah, this is a huge one for me. It was where I'm still learning, like the one before just then. There are certain areas in my life that I think I'm not leading very well, and that's okay. That's a starting place. Just realizing where you're not doing so well is a starting place. It becomes wrong when you stop there, not do anything about it. But I struggled with leading certain aspects of my life, and of course that will come back and show through the result that you get. So really becoming conscious and asking yourself, like what you just said there, for any business owner, it is invaluable. And how do you do that, Trevor? Because I know you do that very well. In fact, before you answer that, I remember a few years ago, Trevor, when you were documenting on a spreadsheet how you were spending your time, even how much time you're spending on watching a movie. You were documenting everything at the time. I thought, goodness gracious, the man has taken it to the extreme. Tell us, how do you lead yourself? How do you manage that as your life, really?
I think that was really good exercise. I should go on the record and say I don't do that now. It was literally for a 3 to 6 month period, I think,
Yeah,
and then I kind of extended it to the year. It kind of at the time it fed well into the practice that I was doing anyway, because within consultancy, you log your time to different projects, whether it's chargeable, we can invoice clients, or whether it's internal sort of business development.
yeah.
So the whole kind of timesheet consciousness, if you like, was already there, and it was a habit. And I just thought, yeah, wouldn't it be interesting to see what am I spending my time on that isn't sat in the office at work? I know that I spend X amount of hours doing that, but how am I really using all the rest of the time? And yeah, I would recommend, and again, certain personality types like the data, the analysis, they like looking at that.
You're thankfully
Some
one of
people,
them, bro. I tell you that now.
yeah, I think life is just better with spreadsheets. I don't use them all the time, but yes, I think they're a good tool that can be used. But just you don't have to go to that extreme. You could, within your day, you could say for a 7-day week, you could just apportion. Okay, I've actually spent X amount of hours that I know I've done work. I've done X amount of hours. It takes half an hour, say, to prepare a meal 2, 3 times a day. So that's an hour and a half a day. You could be quite vague with it if you wanted to, just to give a rough picture. I think for a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with watching TV, movies, box sets. I enjoy them regularly, but if you actually realize how many hours a 5-season box set takes of your life, it's great and there's nothing wrong with it, but are you willing to invest X amount of weeks of your life on a box set? Just kind of using that as an example. Please, listeners, don't get hung up on whether you're watching too much TV or not at this point. Just whatever it is, you might sleep longer than you actually need. I'm a great advocate of sleep. I like it. I see a lot of value in it. But if I lay in bed too long, it's counterproductive. I start thinking about all the things I should be doing instead of actually getting up and doing them. So you can kind of break your week down into chunks and do it that way if you want. Just try it for a short period of time. A year is quite extreme for a lot of people. So just try it for a week.
Awesome. Well, that's how you lead yourself right there, guys. If you want to know what to do, so you start by noticing what is it that you're doing, and then make corrective action to move your life in the direction that you want. And that makes you a better leader, among many other things. Trevor, we've run out of time today, but we certainly enjoyed having a conversation with you. We certainly would love to talk to you about other aspects of leadership sometime very soon, because I know you are one of you're on John Maxwell's team, and we want to talk about that maybe on another episode sometime very soon. But today, for those who wants to find out some of your work and want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Easiest place to be would be trevorstockwell.com. Just touch base with me there. There's a contact sheet there you can fill out and join the mailing list if you want to stay updated with what's going on. That would be really useful.
Incredible. Final words to fellow leaders who are braving it out. You and I know that leadership takes courage, especially if you're leading other people who are depending on you. Final word. Yep. What do you have to say to them?
I would say just don't place the value you have of yourself on your successes and failures.
Right.
Life is made up of both. Kind of should be, I think, to some extent. But you're much more than your actions, and there is a trap that you can think, I failed here, and you can get down on yourself and start being too critical. That's then, it starts a vicious cycle. You become less motivated, so you do less, which means you produce less, and the cycle goes on. So separate the fact of who you are and the value that you are as an individual, different to everybody else on the planet, and that's right. There's nothing wrong with that. Separate that from your achievements and the things that maybe don't go as well as you thought.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, there you have it, guys. Trevor Stockwell, a leadership development coach and a business coach, out there helping people do what they do best and also helping them to achieve their results faster. Trevor, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Awesome. And if you want to connect with Trevor, there will be a link at the bottom of this conversation. If you fail to connect with him there, just head over to our LinkedIn group. You will be able to connect with us there. Look, we believe that everybody has the ability to become a leader. And if you start working on it using some of the concepts we talked about, even if you just pick one of those, like the awareness, you'll be amazed at the person you will become, because it's all about who you're becoming today. And if you become more intentional about your leadership abilities, it's amazing what you can become and how much influence you can be to our world today. We believe in you and what you are going after. With that said, have a great day, and we'll talk again very soon. And goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.